did you I invent the green? Of course I wasn't fool enough to drink it. Small doses in gaseous form increase my strength, agility, intelligence, with no blackouts, no loss of control.
But you can't do this to me. I started this company. You know how much I sacrificed? You're out, Norman. Out am I?
Can you start title of the video? The Green Goblin, the #1 go-to guy, the #1 main villain to Spider-Man. If there was equivalent between DC and Batman and Spider-Man and Batman, he would be the Spider-Man Joker. He would be the only, maybe like the combination of the Joker and Bang to a certain degree. Not one-to-one, but the role he plays, well, he finds out Spider-Man's identity, the role he plays, the way he tracks down and hunts Spider-Man, and the looniness and the craziness to the Goblin, his action is just, he's a character to a different degree. And from when he first showed up in the 1960s, you find that Spider-Man's entire backstory. Well, not his backstory, his entire secret identity, and the whole concept of a villain knowing Spider-Man's secret identity, and the fact that the Norman can hurt Spider-Man in ways that Peter never could to Norman. The fact that he can attack his family, the fact that Peter is his son's best friend, the way he can manipulate and frame things, and just do all these certain things to Peter. No other villain and really too much other media can do what Norman Osborn done. And it just comes down to the question: if you have a character this in depth, a character who's this influential, a character that's that important to Spider-Man, who is considered to be Spider-Man's #1 go-to villain, as in the main threat, the main enemy, compared to Otto Octavius, compared to Sandman, compared to Runner, compared to Electro, Kraven, to all these other guys, to Tombstone, to the likes of him, to everybody else. He is the main threat, the go-to guy, the guy who can hate Peter in ways that no one else can. He is a major threat for a reason, and respected. So it makes me question over the last few years that why is Norman Osborn just gone, just missing? How come Norman Osborn as a main villain barely shows up for Peter Parker? Like, see, if you don't need to have a Joker situation where every single game the Joker's there, every single thing that have any type of involvement with Batman, with Spider-Man, have to have the Green Goblin. But in the last past like 20 to 30 years, like when the last time the Green Goblin has been a major threat in anything? You have the first Spider-Man movie, and that movie tie-in game. You got Spantacular Spider-Man, and that's pretty much it. Oh, you had Ultimate Goblin and Ultimate. That doesn't count. That's not the Green Goblin. That's not Norman Osborn as we know him. And since we did have one of the best depiction, animated-wise, the Green Goblin and Spantacular Spider-Man, you guys gotta wonder, why is he missing? Oh, with the MCU, they want to do something different. They want to introduce other villains that we haven't seen before. You don't really got too many of those. You're not trying to introduce Kingpin. Arguably, in my opinion, you ruined Mysterio and the Vulture in a way. But then again, you gotta sit down and watch the movies and not just go off clips. But I don't think the clips will make anything any better. But we go to the main subject. How come Peter Parker's main villain is always missing? Just look at the video games. How many times you can see the Green Goblin inside the video game? He wasn't in Shadow Dimensions. He wasn't in Edge of Time. He wasn't in Web of Shadows. Wasn't in Spider-Man 2 or 3 in those video tie-in games. And the only other games you could say he was in was the first Spider-Man movie game and the Amazing Spider-Man 2. That's the only two things. And it seems like people are scared to write Norman Osborn, or people are scared to have Norman Osborn. Somebody said, oh, in recent years, oh, you've had the Goblin King, the whole Goblin King storyline. I don't really find that storyline too special, to be honest. And so, in a certain way, I don't think it fits Norman Osborn to do something like this. It's not out of his range, but I just find that whole storyline to be odd. Especially when I hear about it, see what actually went down, the whole Goblin Night and everything like that. It's just, it's just something wrong with that story. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I can't put my finger on what's wrong with the story and why I find it just not. I can't say it's not Green Goblin, but I don't know, something's wrong. It's not something the Hobgoblin would put together. So I can't really properly explain it. It doesn't feel like, to a certain degree, that's something that Norman would do. It's not out of his range, but everything he does in that storyline just seems strange. And since it does hinge on the back up, of course, Spantacular, Superior Spider-Man, it's just, that takes things down to another few levels. And of course, you have to have the showdown between Norman and Spider Island. And once again, Norman just magically loses memory, because of course, until the Red Goblin shows up, him and a carnage symbiote, and he's just immune to fire and flames. And he just is until I forgot what they used to defeat him, but he's just immune to fire. And I think he also immune to sound as well. So it's just, oh, but we just find a way to defeat him, and it's just separated just like that. It's just that easy. Apparently it is. Apparently it is, since Cletus Cassidy always had to die as Carnage. And it comes down to like what's some iconic Goblin stories you could say, hey man, with the Green Goblin, you gotta read this and the way he influenced Peter that, or this whole master plan Norman Osborn has had. Because there's a period of time where the Green Goblin was dead for 20 years straight. He was just dead. He was like the Joker for the first time. He was not supposed to show back up. He's like the Shredder. He was not supposed to show back up. I believe they brought the Shredder back in like what, like the 6th or 7th issue? No, I think like in volume 2 or somewhere around there. At least they brought back the Joker eventually. But Norman Osborn was just dead. He was just gone. And then he came back. And then he vanished. And then he came back. He vanished, and then like the end of the whole Goblin King storyline and the whole thing, the whole takeover thing, where he was affecting people, the Goblin ship, and they're turning the Goblins, all that. And then at the end of all that, it turns out Norman Osborn was alive, and he's just using somebody else's face. And now recently, he's just lost his memory again. He got it back, and I guess he lost it again. I don't know what happened with the whole Sin Eater storyline of Spider-Man, but it's this. Where can we have the Green Goblin as a villain? Just have him show up to be the Green Goblin. And just have it be somebody say, oh, just add some purple to the first Raimi suit. That would look terrible. That would look even worse. I would take the prototype suit design over adding purple on top of it. And it just makes it look worse. The suit don't look well with the purple. So just leave it the way it is. It's all green. Just leave it the way it is. There's not much you can do besides go for the original idea they had for it. But overall, to me, I just feel like somebody gotta be afraid or just not. Then like even like go with the recent stuff. You got stuff like Insomniac Spider-Man where it's just like there's no Green Goblin. There's none. The Green Goblin's gone, non-existent. This is just gone. And it's just if he wasn't the main villain, it wouldn't be a thing where it just like we got to have him. But it doesn't seem like compared to like a lot of other people, it doesn't seem like the Green Goblin really do much in like outside media. When it refers to Spider-Man, you always have Bang show up, you always have the Joker show up, you have these other characters show up from other different media. Sabretooth shows up, or is this always Jigsaw, the Punisher? Somebody always shows up, or well, not really Jigsaw. Jigsaw's thing, it's 50-50 if he shows up or not. But you got Captain America, the Red Skull, you have Iron Man with the Mandarin, or that Russian guy. I forgot his name. Oh, yeah, Crimson Domino. There's always somebody, or just like they're the main one. And since Iron Man less known and no one really read his books aside from a few people because it's a sad reality. If it was from the MCU, no one would care for the character like they do now. Doubt most people seen that 1990s Iron Man series. Only I would be able to watch it because it was on Disney SD when I was showing it early in the morning and like early on Saturdays. So that's how I got the chance to watch it. But I just always find it odd. I always find it strange. It's such a great character. It's such a great. I just think I hated that version of Green Goblin, the Ultimate Green Goblin. I guess until I saw what he looked like early on, and some of the things he was invested in. I say I like the character more. I liked him in Ultimate Spider-Man, but I always preferred the original Green Goblin for years. And then you find that the Green Goblin have all these extra abilities, and it's just like, where is he? Why is he never there? And at least in the Sam Raimi film, he died and he had a legacy that's left to him. But in the current film, there's no way the Green Goblin could show up, because that was the case then. We wouldn't have to bring him in from a different universe. And then how is Sony going to have a Sinister Six movie when in Spider-Man Far From Home, well, No Way Home, they're doing the exact same stuff? So it's just like, why can't we get Green Goblin as a main villain in the game? Why must he always be a sidekick? How come he always gonna be an afterthought? We don't really have that many good renditions of Norman Osborn, because pretty much there's Spectacular Spider-Man, there's the 1990 series, and there's the first Spider-Man movie. That's it. That's it. And what about Spider-Man Friends and Foe? You can't count that game, because every single Spider-Man villain that could pull out a backside was put into that game, because the whole gimmick was playing as Spider-Man was one of the villains, so that game doesn't count. So just makes you wonder. Makes you wonder. And I don't want the Green Goblin to get the Joker treatment, because I already know how that's going to go down. I already know what they're gonna do with that, and there's nothing I want nothing a part of. But I just want Norman Osborn to show up, you know, every once in a while. Cause like recently for the last past like what? Since like 2002 for the last past like 19 years, 19. That the character has pretty much done nothing outside of Spectacular Spider-Man, and I don't count Ultimate Green Goblin as the Norman Osborn Green Goblin. So he's pretty much done nothing. But in the comics wise, he showed up, become the leader of the Dark Avengers, became the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. He did something there, I'll say that. But besides from that, on the whole Goblin King storyline, I may be missing a lot. That could be a possibility. And I fully accept this video is misinformed. I won't claim I read every comic book. I won't claim I've seen every series. But overall, for the main villain, he barely shows up at all. Even when Beanox had a chance to add him in like their own little universe thing or do their own side stories, things like that, never did show up. Never did. The only reason he was in the Amazing Spider-Man game was because it was a movie tie-in. That was it. Any Spider-Man game that has nothing to do with a movie had never had the Green Goblin as the main villain. Otto Octavius has somehow been in more games. Even though he's not the main Spider-Man villain, he's the top 5. He's like the top 3 of people who hate Spider-Man. But oddly enough, the main person who's supposed to be the main villain is never there. He's always gone. He's always doing something like that. He's always missing. And Spectacular Spider-Man will never return or have a... That's the thing. I would say this. If the series get cancelled, just have the writers make a comic book. You don't solve the problem. We don't even need it animated. Just have the comic book. You don't solve the problem. We get our proper ending that was never animated. Maybe some fans may try to animate it to do it themselves to get struck down by the mouse. Or in this case, like to call the rat. But, overall, I don't think I ever get my answer to why it seems like no one wants to write Green... Because even now, the Insomniac series, Green Goblin is not showing up. He's not showing up. I can guarantee you that. He's not showing up. Because there'll be too many cooks in the kitchen. It'll be Carnage, Venom, and the Lizard. And a potential turn of Otto Octavius and Electro. That's not going to work out too well. It's not going to work out too well at all. It's not going to work out too well at all. At all, really. At all. But hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. I gotta say, the Green Goblin has to be my favorite Spider-Man villain out of them all. Even though I love Octavius, even though I love the guys in the Sinister Six, even though I love... As I might say, well, you can say the same thing about Kraven. Norman Osborn haven't died. When Kraven died, he pretty much never did come back after he shot himself. I see, that was pretty much it. That was the last hoorah for the character. And even Kraven, a man who has been dead, have shown back up. Even the Abomination have shown back up and not really having significance really in the whole Gamma Flight thing. But he showed back up and he's been showing up in multiple different renditions of the media. But for the Green Goblin, you might get some pocket change here and there. And that's it. Like he's not in comic books. He make every 8 to 5 year appearance, and that's pretty much it. But there's no TV shows really. There's no video games. There's no movies. There's just been nothing. And somebody say Amazing Spider-Man 2. What about Jimmy? Isn't that no? That's not the Green Goblin. You should just call him that. I will call him Green Goblin, but you can't really call Harry the Green Goblin. It's more of like a new Goblin type of thing. It was more like they were setting up since the father dead died for like him to turn out to be the ultimate Green Goblin, which would fit him more well since he's already that old. They just resurrect him in that mutant body. Or however they was going with their storyline, but I don't really see him as the Norman Osborn, the clever, the cunning, the genius man himself at all. It's similar to how like it's like two different type of things. Otto Octavius for some reason always showed up as a major Spider-Man villain. Arguably he's bigger than the Green Goblin himself. But ever since then, Otto Octavius have pretty much have had the backstory from Spider-Man 2, and that's pretty much it. He's always used and abused. He's always used and abused by Oscorp. I gotta go look at Otto Octavius' original backstory, and if he was always involved with Oscorp, or was he always just, he was a tragic scientist and he just went down the wrong road. Cause I should have sworn Otto Octavius was evil. what is this period? We had a backstory, but I just sworn he was just evil. Just evil. It wasn't a whole, had a connection with Oscorp, like in Spantacular Spider-Man, or the Sonic Spider-Man, or it was just, he was just always friends with Peter in the, Sam Raimi film. It was just that Otto Octavius was just a bad man. And also he showed up at work for Oscorp and at the time, but, maybe this is very like not well researched video. That could be a very strong possibility of what happened. But overall, you don't really see the Green Goblin too much for a main villain. Everybody else can have that main villain show up, and that's it. But for Spider-Man, he's just, he gets one good movie. You pretty much got the Son of Goblin, New Goblin. New Goblin shows up. Whenever Harry's got Green Goblin, he's pretty much New Goblin. That's the way it is. And maybe then he could have developed that character. He would have became the Green Goblin in a later film, and in the whole Sinister Six movie that was planning before it was canceled. And before that damn MCU Peter Parker showed up. Before him showed up. Ladies, we haven't got thoughts. We do believe that the Green Goblin has been used properly, or have really shown up, or you just believe that you feel the same way I feel, that he's not really underused, but he's barely there for a main villain. He rarely shows up in video games. He rarely shows up in TV shows like that at all, really. Most of the time with the Sinister Six being formed, he's not really on the team recently. So, yeah, it could be a one-off thing. It could just be me. But I personally believe to a certain degree that the Green Goblin has not really shown up or have really done anything. He's just been there, just like people are afraid to write this character and the ways he can actually like destroy Peter, like especially in video games. We barely seen the Green Goblin in a video game at all. I get the chance to play against him on his glider. There's Spider-Man 2, there's Spider-Man, there's Amazing Spider-Man, that's it. That's literally it. That's all I can recall from my memory. That is it. I've literally seen him in no other game. I don't think he's actually is in the end of the game. Okay, you got Venom, Carnage, into the Electro, you got this and that. Yeah, he has not showed up. He's not an Ultimate Spider-Man. Actually, no, he is an Ultimate Spider-Man. But that's Ultimate Goblin. That's not the normal Green Goblin. So it's just, he barely shows up in anything, really. And he's supposed to be Peter Parker's main villain. Supposed to be. But it is what it is. Since the comic books are going downhill, it's been going downhill in the writing quality and art quality, just because. For no apparent reason. I guess they're cutting back on budget, or because like the whole thing is the reason why in the upcoming future like you're gonna get a lot of repeat stories is because pretty much by destroying the foundation of Marvel and DC and these other series, by destroying the foundation of the comic books with these politics, into the future they won't have any material or backstory to really go off of. There's a reason why they broke their neck to introduce Kate Bishop, but Kate Bishop pretty much have a story of a few college stories and when she first showed up in that recent series, and that's it. Kate Bishop is not really a character, similar to Miles Morales. Matter of fact, I have to make that video with Miles. I'm gonna have to make that damn video. But overall, the Green Goblin, where are you? You're missing, and hopefully get to see you show up in a game or a TV show or movie soon. Oh, but you're gonna be showing up in Far From Home. That's not a new Goblin to just bringing back the old one from the Sam Raimi films. Just because. I guess they really had nowhere else to go with the whole identity reveal thing. Just. And plus, no matter how bad or good the movie is, people gonna watch it and buy it anyway. So just. But me sure, can you guys like the video? Down anybody watch it. But me sure, King, like, comment, subscribe, and peace.